The following stories tell the tale of three people who literally killed others over candy. We have two feuding rappers whose argument over a small piece of candy quickly turned fatal, and then we have a man who killed his roommate just 13 days after he was released from prison, and finally a 21-year-old inmate who killed his cellmate when he didn't agree to give him his Reese's peanut butter cups.
All new at 5, insight into the murder of a rapper at an Atlanta music studio. Channel 2's Ryan Young live in Southeast Atlanta with how detectives now say it all started over a piece of candy. Ryan?
Yes, you heard that right. An altercation that would later be determined to be between two different rappers was brought all about because of one piece of candy.
Justin, we actually got rare access to this story today. I want to show you this. This is the piece of candy. They sell several items like this inside the studio, and apparently the rapper grabbed a piece like this from another man inside. They got to arguing over it, then it started a fight, then led to a shooting.
Slim Duncan, who was born in Michigan in 1987, had what appeared to be a bright future in the music industry. He was best known for collaborations that he did with hit artist Waka Flocka Flame. He appeared in Waka's 2010 album Flockavelli. He would also work on other popular tracks with big artists like Gucci Mane and V Nasty. On the day that he would ultimately be shot and killed, he was actually working on a music video with Gucci Mane. It was just another step in the process of really making it big and creating a name for himself. Unfortunately, his life would be cut short before he could make that happen when he was killed on December 16, 2011 after being shot in the chest.
He was actually shot right where I'm standing.
I got rare access to a crime scene this afternoon in hopes of helping to catch a killer.
Victor Mario Hamilton, known in the rap community and recording industry as Slim Duncan.
Slim was in one of the places where he was probably the happiest when his life was cut short, in the studio making music.
Slim Duncan, a young up-and-coming artist, was shot and killed at this recording studio on Memorial Drive this past Friday. Veteran homicide detective David Quinn shows me where the rapper was before he was shot.
Slim Duncan was inside this particular room when, according to witnesses, someone came in, struck him, and a fight ensued. Now, the information we're getting, and it's unconfirmed, but witnesses are saying that this whole thing started over a piece of candy.
Now, you're probably thinking this must have been some special sort of candy, or there must have been more to the story. But reports say that it was really just one piece of candy that was sold in the same studio that Slim took from another person. That person was offended and a fist fight broke out. Slim's attacker escalated the situation by grabbing his firearm.
A piece of candy that looks like what I'm holding in my hand. Duncan, who stood 6'8", was bigger than his attacker. That man then ran and got a gun and shot Slim Duncan.
This fight spilled out into this area where he was attacked, and based on the evidence that we have, whoever he was fighting with secured a weapon and shot him, whereupon he landed in this table area.
It wasn't like this was just a few people messing around in the studio. This was a big deal, and it was going to be a big music video. There were tons of people there to work on it.
That night, the studio was packed because another artist was supposed to shoot a video here.
There were at least 20 or 30 people in this studio at the time. Now, the fact that Atlanta police arrived on call to Grady Hospital first, we didn't have the opportunity to speak to any of those people. We came here almost an hour and a half later.
The police were not immediately made aware of the situation because those that were present did not call 911. Instead, they took Slim to the hospital on their own. It was at the hospital that he would be declared dead.
Now, they came an hour and a half later because the folks here at the studio drove Slim Duncan to Grady Hospital. Now, what they're hoping is some of the people here will contact police and give them the information they need so they can catch this killer.
Police would not end up needing the witnesses to come forward because the accused killer would come forward on his own and turn himself in the day after Christmas of 2011. His name was Vincent Hardiman, and he was 28 years old and went by the title Young Vito. He later claimed that he only had intended to scare Slim and hadn't meant for the gun to go off. The next clip is a bit shaky, likely because whoever was recording was not supposed to be doing so and was trying to do so in secret without the court noticing.
All right, so what happens? I fired the gun and they hit him, unfortunately. So before you fired the gun, did you look at it? Yeah, I mean, I looked at the gun just, real quick. Like, This don't look like a gun?
He explained that he thought he was just threatening Slim with the gun and that it would be enough to get him to back off and leave him alone.
I was just trying to scare him, basically. Use threat or whatever. I wasn't trying to kill him. I wasn't trying to.
But at the end of the day, he could not deny the fact that he did shoot him.
You shot him. Is that correct? And you shot him with the Fabrique Nationale handgun that you owned.
He would go on to testify that at the time this all happened, Slim had his fists balled and was coming at him, but he didn't have a gun on him. So it wasn't likely that he would be able to kill him, but since Slim towered over him, this may have been why Vincent was scared.
I was outnumbered, so that's why.
But correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who has the handgun, correct?
Yes.
Slim Duncan does not have the handgun. He has fists, right?
Yes, but everybody else is like right behind him on that threshold.
Things weren't looking great for him, especially now that it was determined that he shot an unarmed man. But would the jury believe that it was self-defense? Vincent's mother, Anna Gail Hardiman, came forward and asked for mercy for her son. She claims that he is not the person that he was portrayed to be inside the courtroom, and she began by addressing the side of the courtroom filled with Slim's loved ones.
And I'm extremely sorry for the loss of your family member and your friend. My son has been made out to be a horrible person in this courtroom, and nobody knows him better than me. He's my second son. He's generous, he's loving, he's caring. He had a dream. He had a big dream to be successful in business. The studio was built with his hands, with his money, to fulfill a dream.
But what, you may wonder, did she have to say about her son having shot Slim Duncan?
What happened on December 16th should have never happened. I don't even know why it happened, but I know that he's not a malicious person, he's not vicious, he's not cold-hearted. He wouldn't fight over a piece of candy.
It would come down to whether or not the jury thought that Vincent was justified in shooting Slim during the altercation.
Have you reached the verdict? Yes. Was it unanimous? It is. Has the verdict been filled in, signed, and dated by you? Yes. Please publish the verdict in open court by reading it.
Count one. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant not guilty as to the offense of murder. Continuing with count one. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant not guilty as to the offense of voluntary manslaughter. Count two. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant not guilty as to the offense of felony murder.
At that moment, Vincent was probably feeling pretty relieved as he had just been acquitted for murder. But it wasn't over yet. He would ultimately be charged with aggravated assault and faced weapon charges. This was enough to get him 25 years behind bars, although his lawyer is at work in getting him a lesser sentence. Many of Slim's fans were unhappy with the sentence and truly believed that Vincent was guilty of murder. In the meantime, Slim's memory is living on through the music he created before he was. Those who knew Slim and who were close to him reflected back on what happened. They say it caused them to take a step back and really look at what kind of lifestyle they were a part of and what they were doing. They also discussed the fact that Slim likely wasn't aware of his level of popularity at the time of his death.
Talk to me about Slim, man.
That's
when
my
he
baby,
passed,
R.I.P.
How did that impact you and the fam, man? And did that make folks say, you know what, we need to rethink how we living out here?
Yes, actually, because you got to remember, we're big. At that time, I don't really think Slim understood how big he was. Because even when he passed, you had people like Rick Ross that was mentioning him in raps while he was rapping. So I honestly don't believe that Slim knew how big he was.
There's no telling what Slim could have accomplished if he had managed to live out the rest of his career. He could have been one of the top artists of his generation.
But he was big, bro, because everybody with him. Like, he was like on the verge of you.
He was there. He was next.
He was next.
He was next.
Boy was gonna be out of here. He was out of here.
B, Height, Alt, and Frenchie discussed when they first learned of Slim's tragic death. At first, they could hardly believe the news.
What went through your mind on that fatal night that he passed, though, man?
I was in New York, bro. And I got, and the way how I seen it, bro, Shit was on the internet, bro, and I seen that shit. I was like, bro, and then I started realizing I could call Chaz. Like I got in contact with the family, and they said it was true, and I was just like, sometimes you gotta slow down, man.
They explained that they knew what living on the streets was like and had a few close calls of their own, but were always lucky to get out of them alive. Slim was just not as lucky.
In life, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, you feel me? You feel me? I've almost been killed a couple, you know what I'm saying? But God is with me.
At the end of the day, one thing is certain that everyone can agree on. Two grown men who both have so much to live for and were capable of so much success should have never let a fight about candy get to this point.
But I can tell you, in all the years I've been covering homicides, I don't ever remember someone getting killed over a piece of candy.
Man who told police that he was a former boxer is charged for beating his roommate to death less than 2 weeks after his release from prison.
That's right. The killer in this story was only a free man for a mere 13 days before committing a murder.
All started as an argument.
That's correct, and Philip Frazier is now being held here. The charge against him is murder in the second degree. And during his interview with detectives, he repeatedly told them that he knew something like this would happen after his release from prison.
This is the killer, 59-year-old Philip Frazier. His victim was 60-year-old Danny Jones, who was reportedly half his size. They had been staying at a halfway house where the murder occurred. It was a clean and sober house where no drugs or alcohol were permitted.
Last week, police were called to a Kent home and ended up putting this man, Philip Frazier, in handcuffs, arresting him for allegedly beating his roommate to death. The 59-year-old had been released from prison just 13 days earlier.
He finished his sentence and was out.
He told detectives that the Department of Corrections had provided his housing, a transitional home, where he shared a room with Danny Jones.
Now wait until you hear what caused Philip to fly off the edge and decide to take the life of someone after just getting a small taste of freedom.
In court records, it states that in their short time as roommates, Jones had repeatedly complained about Frazier making noise. And on the night of May 12th, Jones was asleep when Frazier retrieved candy from the nightstand. The noise of the packaging woke Jones up.
It was a packet of Reeses Pieces that Philip got out and began making noise while using the packaging. When it woke Danny up, he became frustrated that once again Philip had disturbed his sleep. He got out of bed and walked over to Philip to complain. That's when Philip attacked, as he explained to the police.
Frazier allegedly said that he reacted by slamming his roommate back onto his bed and hitting him repeatedly in the head. Frazier, who is twice the size of Jones, told detectives he was a boxer for approximately 14 years and knew he could seriously injure or kill someone with 2 or 3 punches.
Now let's consider the size comparison here. Philip is around 6'4", weighing in at approximately 290 pounds. Danny, on the other hand, was 5'8" and weighed only about 135 pounds. So obviously, Danny would not have been able to fight back or protect while Philip continued to wail on him.
Shortly after police and paramedics arrived at the scene, Jones was pronounced dead.
To see this level of violence for such an unnecessary reason, it's really concerning. That's why we went to court to ask for this $4 million bail.
The state's request was granted, and Frazier, whose criminal history includes 5 felony convictions, is once again in custody.
When Philip was brought into custody, reports say that he had dried blood on his hands. This just happened in March of 2022. So there's no update on the status of the trial, but it's safe to say Philip is likely not going to be getting out of prison anytime soon.
The stepdaughter of an inmate murdered by his cellmate over candy wants his killer to get the death penalty. Channel 2's Tom Jones is live in Clayton County, where the killer ended up getting a chance at freedom. Tom.
That is right, Dave. William Brooks got life with parole. The death penalty wasn't on the table. All of this after prosecutors say Brooks murdered his cellmate all over Reese's peanut butter cups.
Once again, another story that turned fatal between 2 men involving candy. The killer is a young man who was in jail for a theft-related charge.
This is video of 21-year-old William Brooks showing deputies how he murdered his cellmate, 57-year-old Kenneth Grochowski, over this Reese's peanut butter cup.
Reportedly, it was Kenneth who had purchased the candy, likely from the commissary. When William saw his cellmate about to enjoy the treat, he decided he wanted it. Kenneth was nice enough to share, but at some point a fight broke out between the two men, and it resulted in William savagely beating Kenneth to death.
Brooks pled guilty to murder, then said he didn't mean to do it. But prosecutor Katie Powers said Brooks viciously beat Grochowski in their cell 2 years ago. She said when the victim wouldn't give him the candy, Brooks punched, kicked, and threw him into this toilet.
This was a brutal attack and a terrible way to die. And all because of 2 pieces of chocolate? To William, it was candy that was worth killing for.
When he immersed his face in water, it slammed his face and neck into the toilet.
Brooks smiled during this reenactment. Powers read letters where Grochowski's stepdaughter wanted Brooks to get life without parole or the death penalty.
Understandably, the family members of the victim were very angry. After all, the victim was nice enough to agree to share his treat, and he was repaid by being beaten and killed for his act of generosity.
I thought it was murder because he was sharing his Reese's peanut butter cup.
Grochowski's 2 sons said it is horrendous their father was killed over candy.
We truly hope Mr. Brooks is never released from prison.
But due to the sentence he received, this young man will have the chance to one day be a free man again, even if it's not for a long time. The court proceedings and sentence caused tension between the 2 families, who nearly got into a physical altercation while leaving the courthouse. The killer's family wanted people to remember that Kenneth was not without his own faults in life.
The judge sentenced Brooks to life with parole, as the state suggested. Outside court,
Come on. Alan, you pushed me again. I'll knock the hell out of you right here, boy.
Brooks' relatives tussled because one resented Grochowski being painted as a saint. Brooks' brother said this is not about the victim.
And we apologize for any pain we caused the family.
One important detail to add about this bizarre story is that in the package of Reese's peanut butter cups, there were 2 pieces of candy. While Kenneth was willing to share, William wanted the entire thing. And when Kenneth failed to give it to him, that's when he went off.
Now, Grochowski had given Brooks one of the pieces of candy, but Brooks wanted both of them. Grochowski was in the Clayton County Jail waiting to be extradited to Illinois on weapons and DUI charges. Brooks was in jail for a theft by receiving charge.
So there we have it. 3 stories of people's lives that were cut short over something as silly and trivial as candy. If these killers had simply taken the time to step back, cool off, and consider what they were arguing about, these senseless deaths could have been prevented, and the pain that was caused to countless other outsiders would have never occurred. Stay safe out there, and thanks for watching. And good night.